All right, part 3, let's go through multiplying polynomials. Okay, so up here when you add and subtract, like terms have to have matching exponents. You guys can multiply anything. Okay, so when you multiply, here's another thing, and this you're probably going to see this. I'm probably going to say this to you. Hey, the word distribute and FOIL mean the same thing. I'm not a big fan of using the word FOIL because if some of you had previous teachers, they may have taught that. Great. It still means multiplying. So FOIL and distribution mean the same thing. They mean multiply. So when you see this in your brain, I need you to think multiply. So FOIL and multiply, FOIL and distribute, and multiply all mean the same thing. Okay? Combine like terms only when you add and subtract. Okay, I'm going to put one plus and minus. Combine like terms when you add or subtract. Multiply first. They don't have to be like terms to multiply. You can multiply anything together. Look at this. Okay, and I'm just going to, let me use this on a post-it before you put this in the wrong spot. There's a big difference between 8x plus 4x and 8x times 4x. These are like terms. I can add those together. 8 plus 4 is 12. X and x stay as an x. Like terms stay as the like term. Now, when you multiply, 8 times 4 is 32. Stuff changes. X times x is x squared. Notice the difference between those. There's a big difference between those. And in fact, they don't even have to be like terms to multiply them. You could have had this, 8x squared times 4x to the third. It's going to look very similar to all of these answers. It'll have an x, it'll have 8 times 4, 8 times 4, but if you say, Thrasher, I can't do that because they're not like terms, you're totally right. I cannot add 8x squared plus 4x to the third. So if I gave you that and said 8x squared plus 4x to the third, you would say, can't do it because these are not like terms. But if I said multiply them, totally. 4 times 8 is 32. 2x is here. 3x is there. So how many x's do you have? You have 5 of them. All right? Remember, multiplication tells you how many you have. So watch out for that. Okay? Sometimes kids will be like, oh, I can't do that because these aren't like terms. Kids, you can multiply anything. They don't have to be like terms. Okay? 4 bananas times 3 is 12 bananas. Okay? 4 bananas plus 3 apples, I can't do. So when I look at this, as we go to distribute, so we're just going to multiply these together and teach. Some teachers say FOIL, some teachers I use the box method. Okay, if you know how to distribute, you can go ahead and roll with that. But remember, the other thing I need you guys to understand is you can only multiply 2 sets of parentheses at a time. Okay, in school, we taught you how to do this, 8 times 2. We didn't teach you how to do this, 8 times 2 times 5 all at once. When you guys multiply, what you have to do first is you can't multiply them all together at the same time. You got to put 2 things together at once. So 8 times 2 is 16. If you were to do this problem, 8 times 2 times 5, you put 2 things together, 8 times, or let's do 5 times 2 because I was thinking of that right off the bat. 5 times 2 is 10, and then multiply that by 8, and you get 80. Kids, if you said 8 times 2 times 5, I can't do that without doing 5 times 2 first and then times 8. I can't do all 3 together at the same time. It's not like adding. So when you guys multiply polynomials or parentheses or whatever, you can only put 2 sets of parentheses together at a time. So the reason I bring that up is because when I give you stuff like number 8, and you got 3 sets of parentheses and all of that, I get worried that there's going to be a kid out there that's like, hey, I'm just going to distribute this 3 all the way through. No, don't do that. Only put 2 things together at a time. So if you're going to multiply this negative 3, then multiply it with the a plus 5. Okay, if you're going to multiply the a minus 2, then you need to multiply it with the a plus 8. Only put 2 together at a time. It does not matter which 2 you do. Okay, So, but negative 3 times a is negative 3a. Negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. So there's the first two I put together. Now I'm going to put the next two together. I'm going to keep them in parentheses because remember, we got to multiply all of this stuff together. But you can't take this 3 through to everybody. Don't do that. Put two things together at a time. Put two things together at a time. Okay? A times a is a squared. A times 8 is plus 8a. Negative 2 times a is negative 2a. And I'll get my hand out of the way here. 2 times 8 is 16, but it's going to be minus. There it is. I distributed. I'm going to combine like terms. Most everybody from what I've seen in class so far, 8 minus 2 is 6. I'm combining these terms in the middle. You don't have to do it this way. You guys are pretty good with distributing. So I'm not going to go through a whole lesson on how to multiply because I've seen you all do it. No matter where you're getting your answers from, I've seen you show me steps that you know how to do it. So I'm going to show you my method of doing this because I really can't stand distributing like this, like here, because it gets confusing for me. So what I've done is I've put these two sets of parentheses and these two sets of parentheses together. Now, this is how I multiply. When things get big, this is how I multiply them together because for me it makes sense. If you're good with the arrow method, then you know what? Use the arrow method. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take 1a squared plus 6a minus 16. Where did I get the 1 from? It's right there. So I just took that second set of parentheses, and I'm going to write it right there on the top. Now, I'm going to do what's called the box method. So underneath it, I'm going to write this box. Because this, for me, makes sense in my brain. Okay? Now, so I wrote this across the top, so I put all of those across the top. Now I'm going to take this, I'm going to write it down the side. So negative 3a goes first, negative 15 goes second. Now, why did I do that? Because for me, it's going to make sense when I go across and multiply them together. I don't have all these ugly arrows all over the place. That's not going to confuse me. If you're good with your method, do your method. If you don't have a method, I like this because it's clean. Okay, so we're multiplying. Negative 3 times 1. So in each box, whatever is below it and to the left of it, you're using that to get that box. So negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. How many a's do we got? We got 1, 2 here, we got here. So count them up, put how many you got, and put an exponent with that. So since he has 2 and he has 1, remember he would have an exponent of 1. 1, 2, 3, he's an exponent of 3. To get this box, it's going to be 6 times whatever's off to the left. 6 times negative 3 is negative 18. 1a and 1a makes 2a's. Negative 16 times negative 3, two negatives make a positive. 16 times 3 is 48. He's got an a, he doesn't, so they only have 1 together. It's much cleaner for me. I don't like all those arrows because I get lost. But I'm an old man. You guys choose what you like best. Best thing about math is you have options. Now, I'm done with this across the top. I just need to fill in these 3 blanks. Negative 15 times what's above it, 1a squared. Look outside the box. Negative 15 times 1 is negative 15. He's got 2 a's. He doesn't have any, so this is going to be a squared. Negative 15 times 6, you have a negative and a positive, so you know that's going to be negative, and 30 carry that. I think that's going to be negative 90. He's got an a, he does not, so he's going to have an a here. Negative 15 times negative 16. I'm going to type that in off camera in a calculator, and I got 240 for that. Negative times negative is positive. Okay, this is just the box method. It's very clean. And then the last stage to this, we're going to combine like terms. How do you know which ones are like terms? Like terms have the same exponents. If you've done this correctly, like terms should be diagonal of each other if you got stuff written in standard form. Like terms, a squareds with a squareds, single a's with single a's. If you got stuff written in standard form and you did it all correctly, everything should be ready to go. There's no other 3a to the thirds, so 3a to the thirds is going to be by itself. Negative 15 and negative 18, we're just add your stuff together. Negative 15 plus negative 18. So negative 15 plus negative 18 is negative 33. 1, 2 A's for each one. These are like term combining now. Negative 90 plus 48 is negative 42. They're single A's. And the 240 doesn't have any like terms. So it's going to go right there. This has been distributed out. So what's the main gist of this? Hey, when you distribute, you can use all your arrows. In fact, I use arrows up here, but when I get something this big and ugly, I make sure I use the box method. Okay, also the other thing, only put 2 things together at a time. Only put 2 things together at a time. Don't distribute this 3 into everybody. Work with 2 things at a time. Remember, and just last point, and then I'm going to shut up. I'm going to stop this video. Okay, when you guys multiply things together, just like I talked about, and I'm reiterating the same numbers I just used. If I multiply 2 times 5 times 8, we know that's 80. Okay, 2 times 5 is 10. 10 times 8 is 80. You did not do this. If you were to do this, this would jack everything up. Oh, I'm going to distribute this. I'm going to distribute this into everybody. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 8 is 16. And 10 times 16 is 160. Don't do that. Don't distribute this into everybody. Only put 2 things together at a time. 2 times 5 is 10. 10 times 8 is 80. Don't distribute to everything, all of your parentheses. Work with 2 sets at the same time, not all 3. Okay? All right, if that doesn't make sense, hey, please chat with me in our live meets, and I can help you, hopefully. See you later.